everyone, it's Tasha and welcome back to my art channel. Today, we are going to be delving into some intuitive painting to create backgrounds for future projects. So I was inspired by my friend Autumn to try to make something incorporating butterflies. So I'm going to be making some bookmarks with some of the backgrounds that I create in the future. So if you're interested, just come and join me for the ride. Let's get started. So the first thing I like to do is pick out the papers that I want to use for the project. I like to narrow it down to 5 or 6 pieces, sometimes a little bit more. But I think I get a little overwhelmed if I incorporate too many colors, too many different textures. So I really do try to narrow it down. So I added some tissue papers, and I also tried to limit myself to just 3 colors in paints. Sometimes I'll cheat and sneak in another one, but I do try to limit it to 3 paint colors. So when I'm making things like bookmarks or cards, I like to lay down a foundation of just magazine paper because I find that it helps me get the texture that I want. It makes it a little heavier and it holds up more. So I'm just ripping and laying down some magazine paper over some watercolor paper. And I like to do like a quick drying session between each of my layers just to make sure everything is down and can receive the next layer without any problems. So now I'm just covering it with a light layer of some gesso just to kind of give it a nice even foundation and just give me a nice surface to work on once I start layering those paper pieces in the tissue. And here I go with the scrumbling of the paint. You'll hear me say it time and time again, but this is exactly why I love intuitive painting. You just throw the paint on there, which is so freeing for somebody like me. It's just such a relief to be able to get into a project without having to worry so much about where things are going to go, and it relieves a lot of stress. So it's one of my biggest recommendations now to a lot of the people that I talk to, a lot of the people who I know suffer from anxiety, which I also am one of those people, to really just try to create a moment for yourself where you can just do something without feeling any sort of restriction. It really does make me feel a lot better, and I feel like it does the same for so many other people. So here you'll see that I had my initial 3 colors, and then I did decide that I had to sneak in the yellow to kind of brighten everything up a little bit. It's your project, so you're allowed to do whatever you want, so I broke my own rule. Again, just dry things off a little bit. You don't really have to if you don't want to, but I just find that it makes things a little easier when your layers are dry before you start adding anything else to the piece. So I'm just tearing my paper. This is some of that beautiful rice tissue paper that I had found online. I'll make sure that I put it in the description box below. It actually has some dried leaves and twigs in it. And I am also using some of the leftover green paper. That's also some tissue that I really loved. It's just such a nice texture. And it's a little translucent, so I just feel like it adds a lot to whatever I'm working on. And this is why I love collaging. It's just, you tear and you layer, and every piece that you add on just creates a new dimension to your piece. And it gives it some movement that you weren't expecting. It's like an adventure, you know? like every time I added a piece, I would just kind of feel myself go, ooh, look at that. And even when I'm going back and I'm watching, and even like when I'm sitting watching the process here again with you, I see moments where I was like, oh, and it just kind of gives me ideas of other things that I want to do, even if I wanted to revisit this exact same color scheme. Because I do have this paper, I'm inspired to try so many other things. So I'm actually envisioning like a series that could come off of this one design or this one colorway, which I think is really cool that your own work can inspire you to try other things. It's exciting. I do have a Tasha versus Paper Facebook page and a Tasha versus Paper Instagram. So I would love it if you joined me. I like to post projects that I'm working on that I haven't put into video form, but I'm always creating something. It's a great place for you to come together and discuss ideas. I have a raffle that I do every single month. For every like and share, I add your name to that raffle. For every project that you post, I add your name to the raffle. I really love seeing what everybody does with their own projects. So definitely check me out. And if you've been following me, or if this is the first video you've seen, and if you like it and you'd like to see what else I come up with, definitely and please subscribe to this page and like and share with your people. I'd love to have you join me on this journey. So I'm going in with my Uniball gel pen. It's white ink, and I love this pen. I have tried other gel pens and, they work fine, but this one is just so smooth. It doesn't clog up. It's a pen that I was introduced to probably four years ago when I was doing a lot of brown and white Zentangling type things. And I've always just stuck with it. I love outlining my pieces. I think that it makes the separate components just kind of pop off the page, especially when you're trying to create something to be a background piece. So because I know that I'm making bookmarks with this background, and I know that I'm going to be cutting it into 4 pieces, my intention is to make sure that every part of this project is interesting to look at in a smaller section. So that means going in and adding little details to as many sections as I can, so that even when it's cut into smaller portions, you're still ending up with something that's visually pleasing to the eye and adds some sort of textural interest to the piece. So right now I'm actually just going in and I'm adding like little scallopy bubbles in the green sections. I tend to go in, I'll look at the piece in its entirety, and then I'll pick a color that I want to add an additional texture to. So in this particular case, I picked the green. It took me a while to trust my instinct of just adding. I've said it before, I watch so many art videos. I love just, lying in bed and just watching other people create. It makes me happy. And there are some artists who just have no fear. They just add and add and add, and there were moments where I just feel so anxious, where I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? It was enough. And then you just kind of stay with them for the ride and you realize, oh yeah, that's great. The end product is just so great. So here's the finished background, and I'm gonna cut it in 4s. So if you like it and you like what you saw today, please subscribe and share and hit that like button. And here's one of the bookmarks that I made with this particular background. If you want to see more of those bookmarks with this background, definitely check me out on Facebook and on Instagram. But I hope you loved the video. I loved making it for you, and go do amazing things.